Wow, Ohio State is the number one team in the country.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Buckeyes for the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. It is Tuesday, October 31st in the year 2023, and you might be wondering, why in the world is Jay dropping a show late on a Tuesday evening on Halloween? Because there's big news about your Ohio State Buckeyes, and they are the number one team in the country. That is correct. On Tuesday evening on Halloween in 2023, this is no spooky season for Buckeye fans. This is reality. Ohio State was voted the number one team in the country. I'm shocked, kind of shook. Didn't think this was going to happen. I thought, based off the eyeball test, Georgia or Michigan would be ranked number one. I thought Georgia and Michigan would be ranked higher than Ohio State. Those two things are true. That's what I thought. The reality is that's not the case. Ohio State's win on the road against Notre Dame, Ohio State's win at home against Penn State, amongst the teams that I just mentioned, those two wins for Ohio State are ranked wins. Georgia and Michigan don't have any. So as much as I want to believe the eyeball test is the end-all, be-all, it's not. Your resume says a lot about how the committee is going to view you and how you're viewed as a team based on how the committee is viewing teams right now. Ohio State's there. Ohio State's one of those teams. The brand speaks for itself. Ryan Day is there. Ryan Day has been phenomenal. Only 6 losses in his 4+ years as Ohio State's head coach. And it's true. The brand speaks, but the brand comes with a very weird and abnormal way of viewing how the Buckeyes play. People criticize Ohio State harder than they criticize anybody else in the country. And for Ohio State to be number one right now in the first ranking in 2023 in this season, that is huge. 6-1. I'll go through it like ESPN did and Reese Davis. 6-1. Give you 6-1 there in the rankings right now. Number 6 is Oregon. Number 5 is Washington. Both of those teams are really, really good. 4 Florida State, 3 Michigan, 2 Georgia, and 1 Ohio State. What the committee is telling us is that if the college football playoff started this weekend, Ohio State would play Florida State, Georgia would play Michigan. That is the case. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with Michigan. We have to revisit this conversation because this topic is not going away. With the sign-stealing scandal that Michigan is in the midst of right now, there's a good chance the Big Ten or the NCAA would say, you guys are removed from playing in any postseason game this season. No Big Ten championship if they win the Big Ten East. If they win the Big Ten East, win the conference, no college football playoff. Why? Because you got caught cheating. That's possibly going to happen. But what is happening, the Buckeyes are number one. It also helps Ohio State that Penn State is number 11 and Notre Dame is number 15 in the first rankings. And what do I believe? Penn State's going to win more games. Notre Dame's going to win more games. They're going to move up. Outside of Ohio State at 1, Michigan at 3, and Penn State at 11, there are no other Big Ten teams in the ranking. So Ohio State on the road at Rutgers. Rutgers is bowl eligible, 6-2. Shocking to say that right now at the end of October. Rutgers is bowl eligible. Ohio State has to take care of business against Rutgers, against Michigan State, Minnesota, and Michigan. You have to for numerous reasons. We'll dive into that next. But I want to leave this first part of this show out with this. There's a good chance you're shook like me. Like, no, I don't want to be. Well, you're shook with the ranking. And some of you that are shook might say, no, I don't want to be number one right now. I don't want to be number one. I don't want it. Why? If the committee is rewarding you for how the Buckeyes are playing, and the Buckeyes are not hitting on all cylinders, but there's a good chance the Buckeyes will be hitting on all cylinders. Who cares? Let the boys get better. Let them practice. Let Ryan Day coach his team up and let them play football like Ohio State wants them and believes they can play ball. Who cares about being number one? Oh, there's a mark on you. People are going to bring. People are going to play harder. You're going to get their best. You're Ohio State. You're already going to get their best. Forget the ranking. You could be unranked, and it could be Minnesota coming to town. You're going to get their best just because you're Ohio State. The number one tag, don't be scared of it. Don't shy away from it. They're rewarding you for how I say you as a fan. They're rewarding the Buckeyes for how Ohio State has played this season. And you know what? That's a huge and lofty reward. Because in my eyes, I don't view them as the number one team in the country. I don't think they are. However, I'm not on that committee. I did not have to be in that room. I'm not there making decisions. The decision has been made. Ohio State is the number one team in the country. Now, being number one is one thing. How do they keep and stay at the number one spot? We dive into that next here on Locked On Buckeyes. This instant reaction pod is brought to you by our friends at Gametime. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee. Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Gametime is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. See the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. All-in prices, show your total up front, so you know you're getting a great deal without hidden fees. Buy tickets in seconds with 2 taps. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. This instant reaction pod, is also brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's number one sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Once again, visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen or first watch of every single day. The Buckeyes being ranked in the number one spot, it's huge. It's an honor. It's an award for how the Buckeyes have played the first 8 games in 2023 in this regular season. But how do they stay at the number one spot? They're not in the SEC. There's no SEC bias with Ohio State, how the Buckeyes view Ohio State. That's not a thing. No, you're not in the Pac-12, which is easily the best conference in the sport right now. No. So you're not getting the bias of the SEC. You're not getting the benefit of the doubt because you're in the Pac-12. So with those things taken away, how do they keep the number one spot? One, you got to keep. It's a twofold thing. Ain't just one idea here. There are two. One, you got to keep winning. Easier said than done, but you have to keep winning. Ohio State's one of those teams, and I said it earlier, and I want to say it again the rest of the season. They're going to get everybody's best, no matter what. That Blocko comes into the stadium, or you walk into the shoe and you see that Blocko, you are going to play harder than you ever have before. But 2, you got to get better. So winning is one thing. But winning and staying stale, I don't know. Think about it. There are teams out there that are undefeated. I don't have my notebook with me here, so I had all 8 written down in my notebook, but My notebook is out on the couch, and I'm back in the office. But there are 8 undefeated college football teams here at this point in the season. If Ohio State, if there are multiple undefeated teams at the end of the season, and Ohio State is one of those teams, undefeated conference champ, and there are other teams that are undefeated in conference champs, but Ohio State doesn't get better. They just kind of stay where they are. They have the same issues they have on offense and don't fix them defensively. If they start getting off the slow starts and letting the team score a couple touchdowns in a game, and they're not getting better, just kind of staying stale and right in the middle and not really doing the things you would think a championship level team will be doing in November, they might not be the number one team if there are multiple conference champions at the end of the regular season. You got to win, that's one, but 2, you got to get better. And on tomorrow's pod, we're going to be talking about a lot of things, an announcement that Ryan Day made about Mayan Williams. That announcement is huge. It's pivotal to Ohio State getting better on the offensive side of the ball, especially in the run game. But also, that injury is one thing. There are other injuries at Ohio State. Even though there's going to be a drop-off from maybe some guys leaving the field due to injury and not being able to play and the backups coming in, Ohio State still has to get better. Doesn't matter who's on the field. You're forced to ultimately work every day to get better. And it's not just getting better in practice. It has to show up in the games because that's what matters. So how does Ohio State stay at the top of the poll? 1, you got to keep winning. But 2, you got to get better. O-line's gotten better. Receivers are getting better. Fleming had some good catches over the weekend. Tight ends, maybe one of the backups step up. Maybe Chip Trainum or maybe Down Hayden and say, hey, no more red shirt. We got it. We need you now. Whatever it is, you got to get better. You have to get better. And that's the only way. Those 2 things alone. Winning and getting better and playing like you're the number one team in the country week in, week out, week in, week out. That's the only way to stay at the top of the poll. Out of here on the Instant Reaction Pod. The rankings came out on Tuesday evening. I was shocked. I was shook. Still kind of shook. Don't really believe it's reality, but it is. There's still a pod coming out on Wednesday. A big announcement about Mayan Williams is at the top of that show. We touch on Lathan Ransom, Kyle McCord, Devin Brown, Emeka Ibuka, and other injuries, and even Travion Henderson as well. A jam-packed full show on Wednesday. You don't want to miss it. This has been Locked on Buckeyes here on a Tuesday evening. You can follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at jstevens07. Send all of your emails to jstevens317@gmail.com. We're out of here on a Tuesday evening, Buckeye fans. I'll see you next time.